background on is Chris McGregor, the security with the show on the treadmill.
First of all, I just want to thank you guys because, as you guys know, many of you guys know, this week it's been up in the air, and but this is, people say, has justice been served? I don't know that anything less than what happened up there is acceptable, and so the reality is that Adam Montgomery will stay in prison till at least being 118 years old, and that works. That's where he belongs. And so we're thankful to the judge, we're thankful to the Attorney General's office, and thankful to everyone who's been very supportive to us this week on behalf of our son Jameson.
Today, we looked evil in the eye. We saw the person that took our son's sister away. Today, this ends in the courtroom, and we're glad that monster is put away forever. But today doesn't end for her son. He's still going to ask, what happened to my sister? Where is she at? Why did someone hurt her? And those are going to be really tough questions that we have to ask, that we have to answer. We want to thank this community. Harmony became everyone's daughter, everyone's sister. And without the support of all of you, this community, the police, this justice system, justice would not have been served today. But it was. And this is not a celebration for us, but we can tell Jameson that the monster was put away forever today. And we can never replace his sister, but we can tell him that he can't hurt anyone else.
I know that we've long talked about this case, but the reality is, unfortunately, if there was another Harmony Montgomery today, another Harmony Montgomery could still happen. We certainly, all this needed to happen, but we also need to look at what's happening when it comes to child welfare and to make sure this does not happen again, whether it's the state of Massachusetts, New Hampshire, or any state in this country. And that has always been something that we are committed to on behalf of our son, but also on behalf of Harmony. So that's what we look forward to next, is change happening, but we certainly are pleased with what happened here today.
So you're advocating for in Massachusetts for this Harmony Commission. I don't know if you've been given an update. Are you pleased or not pleased with the pace of moving that forward?
Absolutely not, because what's changed to stop another Harmony Montgomery today? This is so much about Harmony and Jameson, but this is also about so many of the most other vulnerable children, and they're all of our responsibility that we have to protect them. This was preventable. That she was beat in a car. When we all heard all the crimes that he had committed way before he got custody of Harmony, I looked at my husband and I said, how? How did he leave? How did Harmony leave such a loving home and her foster family? How was she not kept with her brother and living with us today? How were they ripped apart? And that has to change because it could save these children's lives.
I think the biggest thing we ask is, what is it going to take to create the change? Because we've met with lawmakers. We've spoken with governor's offices. We've spoken with lawmakers in Washington. What is it going to take? There's already been a child that has been killed in a manner that none of us can even imagine. What will it take to create the change? And this should have been in place days after.
Jameson always ends most things when he talks about his sister, and he says, "I love you, big sister." And we let him know that even though she can't tell him, she loves him too.
Blair, what is that in your left hand there, though?
Jameson's mom, Crystal, gave this to us today to give to Jameson. It has a picture of Harmony on the other side of it, which is very important to Jameson. It's very important to us. It's very important to our son that he knows Harmony's story and he knows his story with her as well, and that doesn't get lost. Sadly, we have too many of these things that remind us of the tragedy and not the celebrations that should still exist. And so it's so sweet, but it's also so tragic.
Today's not a celebration for us. It's just, I think we want to get home and hug our 3 boys and tell them how much we love them and how lucky we are to be their dads.
I also want to say one other thing. If you look back over there, you see officers of Manchester Police Department, and I can't imagine what it's been like for them to deal with the realities of this. And we are so thankful for the law enforcement, the first responders, the people who kept this in the public eye, the people who have listened, the people who've been searching. Just inside, people are telling us about the searches they're still doing. And that matters, and we are thankful. We know our son is, that will be the bright spot for him when he turns 15, 20, 25, goes down a rabbit hole of what's happened in his life. The bright spot in this will be those who've been out there fighting for harmony and fighting for him.
You and I have a really hard time processing these details. They're stomaching to hear the gruesome things Adam did to his own daughter, our son's sister, Harmony. But as what Jameson will never forget is every helper, every police officer, whether that's at the local level or the federal level. That it's for every person in this community that shared her story. It's for everyone that fought and continue to fight to bring her home. And we hope one day that she's found. So he has a place. Crystal, their mom, has a place to go and remember her. They should have that right.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Chief. Good afternoon. My name is Ben Agati. My last name is spelled A-G-A-T-I. I'm a Senior Assistant Attorney General here for the state of New Hampshire, currently Chief of the Homicide Unit. With me is Christopher Knowles, K-N-O-W-L-E-S, an Assistant Attorney General also assigned to this matter, and of course, Chief Aldenberg of the Manchester Police Department, who has been here since the beginning. I imagine just briefly, there's a couple of things I can say today, actually. Most of the time I can't tell you folks much, but today obviously it's after sentencing. So as you heard upstairs, the court did provide a sentence, and the sentence being essentially, when you add them together from the consecutive nature of how they were imposed, being 56 years to life sentence. These 56 years is consecutive to those that he has already been sentenced to in the other docket matter from last year of armed career criminals offenses, as well as theft by unauthorized taking, and that was an aggregate of 32.5 to 67 years. So in aggregate here, and I've been asked just a moment ago, I do not have the exact calculation, but certainly based upon the defendant's age at this point, I believe that he would hit his minimum parole date on these at around either 115 or 118 years old, but they are 2 consecutive sentences. That being said, today is truly about harmony, I would say, and I think you've heard that from all of the different victims' family members from here and from afar who were able to come forward and provide their statement to the court. The presentation that the state made obviously was trying to make sure the court found a good balance between punishment, deterrent, and rehabilitation. She certainly agreed with what the state's recommendation was, and that is what she has imposed. Again, I think what was also tremendous that you may have seen today is the men and women of the Manchester Police Department who were here, and all of our federal partners, state partners out there who could not be with us, some who were and some who couldn't be here, who helped make this basically possible by going and finding the evidence and presenting that evidence in front of the jury. At that point, I'm very happy to take any questions at any time, if anyone might have one. Go ahead, sir.
At the start of it, you obviously made that offer to Adam to tell you guys where?
Yes, I did not discuss any sort of plea offers that may or may not have been made outside of the courtroom. That was a recommendation. And as you may have heard me say to the judge, it's completely in the judge's control what the sentence would be. But the state was willing to change its recommendation from what it presented to the court if he was going to provide us with where she was. He admitted in his closing statements and through even his opening statements that the jury could find him guilty of falsifying physical evidence and abuse of a corpse, directly, which are on point dealing with where Harmony is, wherever she is right now. So with regards to that, I don't know that the argument that somehow maintaining his innocence works when that's what he articulated to the court about those two charges. We were very much hoping that he would share those details. He seems determined to keep those details to himself.
Did you have hope, though, that he might take you up today on that?
I did, certainly. And I think everybody who has been trying to find her had that exact same hope.
Mr. Gotti,
Yes.
are there any avenues for you to continue to try to get that information at this point? Now,
At this point, I think it's up to the defendant, whether the defendant ever chooses to reveal that information to anyone or not. That is his choice. That doesn't mean that the search will stop or that the Manchester Police Department and their partners are going to follow up on leads that come in. But right now, we were really hoping that he would be able to share that information and be willing to do that. He chose not to. That's his right. But that's what he did today.
Is there any update on the search right now? Where it's at right now?
I can tell you, I believe, was it, Chief, about 2 weeks ago was the last time that Manchester went out for another search that was done in a different area, similar to the same locations that we've talked about before. Unfortunately, they were not fruitful at the time.
And I thought that the judge gave him a suspended sentence on one of the things. Wouldn't that make it 55 years?
No, it would still be 56 because the way that the state's presentation that we originally proposed to the court, it's written in the sentencing memorandum, that 12 months on the abuse of corpse charge was the only one that was going to be served concurrent, so at the same time as the falsifying physical evidence charge. The court instead made it to be consecutive but suspended. So it's a consecutive suspended 12 months that's hanging over his head for him to maintain and for the next 20 years have no contact with those families.
So it's the same result.
Practically, it's the same result, yes, with the addition of the no contact order. But that's also something that the Department of Corrections may choose to put on him as part of a condition, but that's up to the Department of Corrections to do. So, were there any other questions that I could answer for anyone?
I'd love to talk to the chief.
Certainly. I'm happy to let you.
Chief, we first heard about this story from you 2.5 years ago, this case. It's been a really long road for you. How are you feeling today?
Nobody wins, right? I mean, it's a bittersweet day. You know, the team back in the room, I'm looking at them all now. I said this last time I stood up here. Jack, Max, Lieutenant, Captain Layton, Captain LaRochelle, Billy Tuss from the United States Marshal Service, who's been with this case from the get-go, Scott Riley. I don't want to leave anybody out, but yeah, it's a horrible, horrible case. You know, Mr. Montgomery had a chance today to, again, I've said this before, you know, yet another opportunity to do one decent, good thing in his life. And again, he passed that up. So we'll keep working it. We'll keep working hard to do our part to locate Harmony and bring her home. So I'm grateful to the two attorneys sitting off to my right here who have been here from the get-go, and Jesse O'Neill as well, who was with us from day one. These are, I said it before, these are extremely talented people that work for the state of New Hampshire Attorney General's office. I don't think the state realizes how fortunate they are to have people like this that sacrifice many things in their personal life, their own time, after hours, weekends, nights, just like my team does. But so, gentlemen, thank you. Thank you to the team at the back. I'm thankful to the media who's kept this story alive and in the news and kept Harmony's face out there. I think that's critically important. So I'm thankful for that. Yeah, it's not a fun day for Manchester PD. It's not a, you know, we're not going to go back and, you know, be all smiles. We're grateful to the judge, Judge Messer, for hearing us, and for the jury for sitting through what they had to sit through for that period of time. So I'm thankful for the process and grateful to be where we're at. It's been a long road.
Chief, do you think the system has changed at all? Could there be another Harmony Montgomery out there now or in the future?
That's not for me to, you know, Manchester PD can do our part to make sure that doesn't happen. What happens beyond that and the partnerships that we have with other agencies that interact with children, we're working, you know, to keep those relationships positive. And my hope is that this never happens again. And I don't, nobody wants that works in this field or works in the field with children. Nobody sets out for that to happen. So we'll continue to take steps to make sure that this does not happen again in the state of New Hampshire or anywhere else.
You're all set with the chief, and if you're all set with us, we're going to thank you for your time, and I believe that hopefully there may be some other family members here who are willing to talk with you. I don't know. But thank you very much.
Ben, could you quickly address the appeals process for Montgomery?
The appeals process?
Yeah.
Yes,
Did you get one?
yes, he certainly has a right to appeal the convictions that he's had here today. He has the right to sentence review, so he may seek that as well. Typically, sentence review is not done until after the appeals are over with. That's typical how the court will act. But that process will begin. That usually takes anywhere from 24 to 36 months to complete.
Are you aware of them filing or planning to file an appeal?
I have not had a matter that's gone to trial where a person has not filed an appeal afterwards, so I would imagine that he will certainly file an appeal.
If he discloses information about the whereabouts of her remains, could that factor into the appellate process?
Likely no. The appellate process is really designed to ensure that the law was followed by the court as the trial went forward. That's what that's designed to address. So if you were to share that information later on, that would be something else that we'd have to address separately.
One more quick question.
Yes.
There are 2 other weapons trials on the docket for this man.
That's correct. We have a status conference that's scheduled in a couple of weeks.
You will go forward with those.
At this point in time, we certainly want to review all of the acts that are going on today. You heard us mention those, that they are still outstanding. And that is certainly something that we'll take a look at and decide what's going to be happening going forward. But I'm not able to give any concrete answer on that status conference. It was enough to prepare for today and get today off the ground. That's another day to prepare for. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Any family would like to speak?